What's up guys, and welcome back to Pop Beat Breakdowns. Today's beat breakdown video is of a song which is really making waves not only in the charts at the moment but also on social media platforms. We're of course talking about Espresso by Sabrina Carpenter. Now when I heard this song I knew I had to make a type beat of it for my beat store, and now I'm going to be breaking down how I made the beat for you in this video from start to finish, showing you how I added everything in what order to achieve the result that I got. Now, if you're a beginner or an intermediate to music production, I hope you'll find this really helpful in broadening your understanding of how you can build up a track for yourself if that is something you struggle with. And of course, I'm going to try and divulge some little bit of details of things I've done along the way to help give you some expanded knowledge of how to build music productions if this is something you're wanting to refine as a producer. And if that is music to your ears, make sure you smash that subscribe button right now, as it's the best way to support the channel, and make sure you watch this video at the end because there's going to be tips and tricks throughout this video that hopefully can help you and your music productions going forward. So with that all said, let's jump into Logic. Okay, so we have the beat right here. I think the first thing to do would be able to play you a little snippet so you can hear what it is that we're going to be breaking down today. Now this isn't trying to replicate the beat, so there is going to be some subtle differences compared to the Sabrina Carpenter beat, but we're on the same sort of vibe and showing you how to create that. So yeah, this is what I came up with. So as you can hear, it's got this really nice funky element to it. Let's break it down from the start and where we started. Now, the beautiful thing about all these videos, which I always say, is I always break down this track for you in the order that I made it, starting from track 1 to track 18. So this is the order that everything was added, so you can get the best understanding of how the track was made. So firstly, what I did for a change was I went into Splice, and I found this guitar loop, which I wanted to be a good starting point. Now, the reason why I really wanted to be transparent about that is because samples and stuff like Splice can be a really helpful tool for all music producers. Even expert music producers use Splice. It goes back to one of them things where you can give someone all the paint colors in the world, but it doesn't mean they can paint the perfect picture. Where you can give an artist just a couple of paint colors and they'll create a masterpiece. And I see a similar thing with samples all the time. So this is the electric guitar loop I found, which I decided I was going to build a track around today. Very funky. Now, the next thing I wanted to start doing was try and create some sort of sense of atmosphere for it. So I really wanted to start building the track up straight away with a mixed synth. As you hear, it's kind of off the beat to the guitar, some sort of, not really a counter melody as such, but it's creating that nice little bit of variety and bounce in the mix by having it sort of like playing off of the guitar. Like that. Now, if you want the sound is actually the Church Street mixed synth, which you can find in the strings section of synths on Logic. So this is something, if you're a Logic user, you have access to as well. Now, again, just on top of that, I also decided that I was going to add an octave of it just for the choruses. And then we added some epic synth strings as well as some sort of pad at the end. Now, you can hear this little throb in the synth strings. That's because I've used a compressor and I have side-chained it to the kick. If you want to know how to do side-chaining, you just grab your compressor here, and in the top corner, there's this side-chain. And you can select anything in the instrument category to side-chain it to. So in theory, for example, because the kick's such a good instrument to do it with, because when the kick plays, that triggers the compressor, which squashes the audio, which creates that nice little throb sound. So that's how we get this effect. So if we were to turn it off, you hear it's just consistent. And it's also used in a lot of Dua Lipa type tracks as well and stuff like that. It's a really effective little tip to use, and it works really effectively in this song as well. Now we're just going to go back to the first chorus. We're going to ignore that for now and go on to the next thing, which is the bass. Now the bass I recorded using the session bass player. I believe it was the Rickenbacker bass by Native Instruments, but I actually bounced this out because I was having some latency issues with it. But this was the bass that I created, and I think it sounds great. Again, nice little bounce to it. So when you put it with the guitar, it all just like it ties into the rhythm section really well. And then after that, again, keeping it really super simple, we're going to contact this time. We used putting the kick and snare, and this is a new plugin which I'm now featuring on the channel. This is the Prism Retro Pop. I bought this the other day, and it is fantastic for this kind of music and 80s pop. So I just added the kick and the snare just to really try and get this track going. And on top of that, I added a nice little tom fill, just I thought, because I'm going to need some sort of transition into the chorus at some point. And that's just using the same toms from, again, the retro Prism Pop drums. Then we added a hi-hat in. Again, very simple hi-hat. The hi-hat, again, still using the retro pop. Just a little sample delay to push it out to the sides and give it a good little stereo field. Then I went back into Splice again, and this time we're adding a shaker. So at this point, we're really now starting to build the whole essence of the rhythm section up, so it's nearly there. So let me just quickly play the shaker with everything as well. Now what you'll notice about the shaker in this, if you're listening in headphones, is the hi-hats I put a sample delay to the left, and then the shaker I put a sample delay to the right. This is so the shaker and the hi-hat don't trip over each other in the mix, but we're still getting a nice stereo spread, because as you may know, with a sample delay, that's basically splitting the signal and putting a slight delay in one ear, so we perceive it as it's more biased in one side of your ear when it comes to panning, but the signal's actually coming out of both sides of the mix, creating this really nice stereo spread. So you get this really nice stereo spread between the hi-hat and the shaker, so they're out of the sides of the mix, but they're also a slight bias left and right, so they're not tripping over each other, as I said. So that's the creative decision why I did that. So when I feel like I was really happy with the drums, it was time to start adding them extra details, like the chords especially. I felt like we hadn't actually established the chords yet, so I went into Logic and the electric piano, and I found the classic suite MK4. It's a very clean electric piano. Keeping it very simple, and then I added this in as well. Now, I believe this is actually the yes, this is when we added the piano. So the Maverick, this is the compressed pop, it's one of my favourite pianos. Again, just trying to put some stamp on the chords in this. And then just to complete this little chord section, I've done this nice little harmonising octave with the chill out pad. Again, this is just holding down the root note, keeping it super simple. And after that, I'll just quickly skip before I get into the effects. I added this last little detail in here. And I did a lot of reverb to it as well. We're using the electric vintage, just some extra guitar. Again, just trying to put some sort of essence to the production, a lot of movement. And I found this was a really good thing to do. So this is just using the melody, so playing it in ourselves. And I just added loads of reverb and the sample delay, again, to spread out to the sides of the mix. But it was just trying to feed off the chords and try and create this nice ambience. That's why there's a lot of reverb on this, because I wanted to warmthen up the production, so to speak. So when you put everything together that we discussed so far, the beat is pretty much there. The last thing we need now is white noise and crashes and some sort of rises and sweeps to kind of transition the whole production together. As you can see, we've got a transition, which is the reverse sweep going into the chorus, and then we've also got our crash here, and then this is just the reversed version of this white noise. Again, it just really helps with transitions, and you can grab all these sorts of stuff again from Splice because it's there. And I just think it's great. And I have a little bank of white noises and crashes which I have saved, which I always go to. So this really helps with my overall sound personally on tracks. So I can start to establish my own print on any production that I do. So with all the effects on, this is what it sounds like in the finished result. It's funny because I also think this could pass as well as a Dua Lipa type beat, but the reason why I labeled this an Espresso Sabrina Carpenter type beat is because the production influenced this from the start, and it was always a good starting point. The most beautiful thing about building up music productions when influenced by a reference track is sometimes you'll start in a similar vein as the actual track, but then you might go off on a tangent depending on what your creativity is doing at the time. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing if you start trying to make a type beat of one thing and it ends up as something else, because that is how you arrive at the end result and don't get stuck. And I do think this has a lot of influence from Sabrina Carpenter as well. and the Espresso song, which have tied and helped this song come out the way it is. And that is, again, the importance of having a reference track, because it helps you to build up productions and finish them like I have done with this one. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this little breakdown of this beat, and if you did, smash the subscribe button if you haven't already, and stick around for future videos. I'm pretty sure about now's popping up a recommendation. Check that out as well. But until then, guys, keep making music, and I'll see you in the next video.